My name is Austin Prevo, and I'm your host of the PV National podcast. It's been a few weeks since the holidays and everything like that, but we are right back on schedule. We are going to be posting a podcast a week starting Monday the 9th for the next 8 weeks. So stay tuned. We're going to have a lot of great content. And our first guest this year is a very, very special guest. I kind of know him pretty well. His name is Neil Prevo. He's my dad. He is a long-term entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, I would say, from the late 80s till now. So we're just going to talk to him about, and then in recent, the last, 18 to 24 months, our businesses have kind of come together in like a really unique way that I'm super excited to talk to everybody about. So yeah, we're gonna just get right into it. So I want you to just kind of tell everybody kind of a little bit of like your background and where you came from Wiggins to Arlington to owning multiple like businesses in high school with Don. And because you truly have had an entrepreneurial spirit from
my whole life,
your whole life.
Absolutely.
And so tell us a bit about where you were born and raised in Mississippi, how long you were there, when you went to Arlington, and then kind of go in a little bit into kind of some of your businesses in high school and stuff that you did there.
Oh man, I don't know. I mean, you want to go back that far?
I do. Well, we'll just touch on it quickly. Where are you from? And then I just am trying to get
born and raised in a little town called Wiggins, Mississippi. It's just north of the Mississippi Gulf Coast, Gulfport. And in the heart of the piney woods, the biggest industry there was the pulpwooding. People go out in the woods, cut down pine trees, and sell them to the paper mills.
It's a big business in East Texas, too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And my dad was one of 4 doctors in the whole county. And so I got to see life from a really interesting perspective. My dad was pretty well known, obviously, only one of 4 doctors in the whole county, but I would go out and do house calls with him. It was kind of crazy. He'd come home and they charged $1. Now this is 1971, but they charged $1 for an office visit and $2 for a house call.
That's wild.
Is what it was. So he'd come
Not
home.
quite the same.
No, he'd come home after dinner. After work, he'd eat dinner and say, "Nilo, you want to go?" And we got out there and got out there amongst them, and I got to see a lot of, and my dad was just one of the, he was a doctor, so he didn't care what part of the town you were from or what your color was or your background or anything like that. He was everybody's doctor. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of interesting because I got to see from a human perspective both sides of the fence, if you will. And I was raised in a way that was, I think, perhaps very different than maybe a lot of people
in Wiggins, Mississippi. Might have grown up and been raised.
But even when I was in 3rd grade, I got a Shetland pony for Christmas, and that was when I started mowing yards and did all that kind of stuff. I eventually, sort of a horse trader, I wound up, by the time we left there in 71, I had 3 horses, my own horse trailer, and was, I just was into that. So
you by 11 years old, you had your own 3 horses and your own horse trailer.
Yes, absolutely. And
all done by Neil P.
All done by myself. Well, with lawn mowing money and, and all that kind of stuff. So we had a snapper riding lawnmower. So when I was 8 years old, I was out
riding
there
around the
riding down the neighborhood, asking the little ladies if they want me to cut the grass, and they'd write me a check for $5.
Oh, man, that's
it was crazy.
That's great.
And so we moved to Arlington when I was 11.
What inspired the move? Like, was it just because D-Daddy needed to?
My D-Daddy, your grandfather, my dad, he had worked 20 hours a day for 20 years. And his doctor, because look, back in those days, man, they did the surgery, they delivered the babies, they did
everything. Shop, pretty much.
They were literally general practitioners. And there were only 3 of them that did regular rotation. So every 3rd night, he spent the night at the hospital because he had to do the ER.
Yep.
They were the only 4 doctors in the whole county. So the hospital had to have a doctor in the ER.
That's wild.
So he did everything. And So, but his doctor said he needed to slow down, or he needed to die, or he not needed to die, was gonna die, was gonna die.
Slow down, or you need to die, brother. Yeah.
It's not worth it. Just go ahead and give it up. But he came out, and Baylor University had a program in physical medicine and rehabilitation. And what Dad was looking for was a specialty that there was no such thing as an emergency EMG or an emergency,
Yeah.
therapy, right?
Yeah.
So he wanted to be, when he got home at night, he wanted to stay at home.
Sure.
And so we moved to Arlington because his brother lived in Fort Worth. And then he became the director of the rehab departments at Arlington Memorial, John Peter Smith, and Hughley Hospital.
Gotcha. So that's kind of why you guys moved
That's
to Arlington.
that's why we moved out here.
Gotcha. And so you were 11 when you moved to Arlington. Middle school, you met someone named Don Gardner. Shout out to Don Gardner. He's my funkle. Yeah,
Yes.
That's my boy.
Don and I met actually in sixth grade. We met on his birthday, June 17th, 1971.
That's
I met
wild.
him
Right when you moved.
Right when we moved.
So you guys developed obviously a great friendship. Obviously still today. I knew Don growing up, and a lot of fun times with him hunting and do a bunch of stuff. But you guys had a couple different things that you did in high school, and you guys were able to fund your whole.
Oh yeah,
the whole thing.
It was really awful. My parents lost control when I had my own money, so they couldn't control the purse strings. So I probably didn't help me, but it is what happened. But we started a disco business. We were in the marching band, and we had a spring party. And so Don and I went over and rented these speakers for this big party we were going to have, and we did the mixtape. It was back on the reels, on the reels.
Yeah.
So we did the mixtape, and the guy it was Orlando Sound over in Fort Worth. He told us, he said, "Well, if you rent these speakers 10 times, I'll give them to you. They're yours."
Oh man!
And so
then after that, it was just cash flow.
It was like, well, hey, what do we do? So the next thing you know, Don and I have both stolen our parents' record players.
Oh yeah.
And we were and we had our own records and all that stuff. So we started Disco Express, and the next thing you know, we're making $400 or $500 a month a piece, doing dances and parties and all that kind of stuff. In 1971, when gas is 48 cents a gallon.
Yeah, that's a little bit of perspective there.
So it was 76, 78.
Yeah.
And so we kept that business. When I went to Baylor, he kept it. Don did it all the way through college.
You're kidding. I didn't know that.
No.
I didn't know that. So
I sold him my half for like $2,500 or something.
So I guess really quickly, I know that's it's kind of like a funny story or whatever, but whenever you guys were doing that, did you guys have any clear-cut responsibilities and roles, or it was just like, hey, anytime a job comes in, we're just rolling?
Well, we divided it up because we were also interested in the young ladies. So we did a deal where each of us would DJ for an hour, and the other one would dance with their girlfriend, and then we would switch. So
right.
That was about all there was.
That was the only roles and responsibilities I would cut. So
it wasn't very sophisticated, but it worked.
But it was a moneymaker, right?
It was a moneymaker. My parents blew them away for our senior prom. Back in those days, 18 you could drink.
Yeah,
it was legal age. So half our class was legal. And so after the prom, Don and I rented out the Elks Lodge, DJ'd the party, and had full staff, security, whole ball of wax, had limos to take us, and my parents were just sort of blown away. They had no idea that we had that kind of cash.
And at that time, you DJ'd the prom, so did the school pay you for?
No, this was our party after the prom.
Okay.
But we had a keg, and everybody had the little, little drink things, and it was crazy. There were actually more pictures of our party in the annual at the end of the year than there was of the actual prom.
That's hilarious.
And we hired, the security guy from the school. So we had all our security people, and all the teachers came. And we were able to have a beer with our teachers. It was really weird. It was very strange compared to what you grew up in. There was no way after a football game you could go have a beer with the coach.
No.
In high school.
And you could do that.
And all the seniors went out to Pizza Hut and had a beer and talked about the game with the coach after the game.
Yeah, totally different.
Totally bizarre.
Totally different.
But
totally
anyway,
different time.
But I was always interested in making money. I was always interested in, trying to do something. So Don and I did that business. Then I went to Baylor, graduated in '78 from Lamar High School. Went to Baylor, and they had started a new major called entrepreneurial studies. And so I decided that was for me. And when I was a little kid, maybe 10, 11 years old in Wiggins, Mississippi, one of the most successful guys there was this guy named John White, and he owned a pharmacy, but they had like the gift shop out in front
Sure.
of it.
Yeah.
And he was just a cool dude, right? And I remember to this day, I was like 8 or 9 or 10 years old. I was at his house, and he said, "Neil," he said, you just need to know something." I said, "Well, what's that?" And he said, "It doesn't matter what you do for a living." He said, "I don't care if you throw garbage for a living. You just got to own the truck."
Mm.
And I don't know why that stuck with me my whole, and from then on, I never ever even thought about
Being an employee.
being an
somewhere.
employee. Never wanted to do the corporate thing.
Yeah.
Never had any interest. And the only job I lasted 3 days at Whataburger. And they had the cute girls out there on the cash register on the fry daddy.
Yeah.
And I realized all I was going to do was clean the toilets because they had the cute girls out front doing the
That
cash
was about all
register.
you. The opportunity was not quite what
3
you
days later, I said, "Aunt, I'm going back. I'm going back to do something else."
do something different.
And I had a boarding stables in Arlington. We had 7 acres, we had 8 stalls, and I told my dad, "I'll mow the place, I'll keep the fences up, I'll do all that, but I want to have a boarding stable out here, but I get the money from that, and
So
I'll take care of the whole place."
You upkeep it. You take care of the place,
Whole
and you get all the
place.
revenue from other people boarding their horses at
That's
your stable.
exactly right.
Got it.
Bought a John Deere 640 3-cylinder diesel with a 4-foot hog, and away you go.
Hell yeah, that's awesome. So not only you were doing that in tandem with the DJ.
Oh yeah,
business.
absolutely.
So
yeah.
You were probably pulling in maybe $700, $800 a month at that time.
Yeah, and in 1976, dude,
That's
is
quite a bit
lot
of cash
money
for a high school kid.
For a high school kid.
Yeah. So
with
go
no
to-
bills.
Yeah, right. Go to Baylor. Get your undergrad in entrepreneurial studies, and then kind of tell us a little bit about some of the rises and the kind of the falls that happened through the mid to late 80s, and then before you decided to go to law school in 90, what was it, 90? 90?
90,
Yeah.
90, yeah. Well, I have to go back and you
Did I
do
miss
know
something?
You do know the airplane story, right?
Oh, I sure do. Yeah.
Okay, so sophomore year at Baylor, I get my pilot's license. A friend of ours was an American Airlines pilot. He took me out. I just fell in love with aviation, and I found out that to get a commercial pilot's license, you have to have 10 hours in a retractable gear airplane. And TSTI in Waco, Texas State Technical Institute, had a pilot program, and they had a plane out there that they were charging $90 an hour for. It was a Cessna. So I scoured what they call the trader plane, which is just, trader plane it's just where everybody sells their airplanes. I scoured the trader plane, and I found a 1947 Beechcraft Bonanza that I could buy for $12,000. And I actually took a business plan to the American Bank of Waco, and there's this guy sitting in there. He's about 100 years old. He's literally, think about it. Today, this would never happen.
Yeah.
Sitting in an office, he's
Smoking
got a
a
cigarette
cigarette.
with an ashtray there, and he's doing this, and he'd read a page, and he would flip it, and then he'd smoke, and he'd flip a page. And I tricked that guy into loaning me the $12,000 to buy that airplane.
And
So at 18, 19 years old, I've got the airplane.
so what was the business plan you tricked him with?
Oh, I went out and I sold block time at $10, the 10 hours.
So you actually did it, but he bought into.
Oh, he bought it. Yeah.
Yeah.
What the plan was to go to those students at TSTI and undercut the competition. I sold them. It was $90 an hour for their 10 hours
in the
and the
Cessna.
one over there. And it was $450 for mine. It's half price. So it just flew the prop off of it. It just flew and flew and flew and flew. And it was 175 miles an hour on 10 gallons. So it got 17 miles to the gallon. And I went to every away football game. So I got all my flying was paid for with all that. But that was my little business.
So you had that little business in college that got you through
Did
undergrad.
that for 2 years,
2 years.
and then I sold the plane for 14,000. So I actually
You
I
made
actually made money on it. It was pretty cool. But
That's awesome.
anyway,
Okay, that's
so
really cool. I didn't know that. Like I knew you had a plane, but I don't think I
that
ever
was
really,
what it was.
That
It
was like how it got.
It was renting to, and I I just went cheap. I parked it. I didn't park it at the big airport. I parked it at the Flying Heart Ranch. It was literally a cattle operation. You'd have to go scoot the cows off the runway, and it was just a dirt runway. But you had to. But that
was it.
You just still needed your 10 hours. It didn't matter where you took off from or where you landed or how much you paid for it. You had to have it. So that's
awesome.
What
So
anyway,
that was for 2 years. Graduated Baylor, and then after Baylor, kind of did you obviously continued your entrepreneurship journey.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about what happened in the 80s.
I had 2 failures in the 80s. I'll tell you what happened there. In the early 80s, when I first got out of Baylor, I put together an insurance program for farmers and ranchers up in the Midwest, where we were selling life insurance to pay estate taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day, if you got over $100,000 in your estate, you had to pay 37% estate tax.
Boy.
So so when you go up there and you own 1,000 acres at $1,000 an acre of quality corn land or wheat land, or
$70,000.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so we would sell them this insurance. It was big premiums. I had a Cessna 210, which is a 6-passenger plane. I hired a bunch of agents, and we did out mail outs. Then they would call in to what we called affectionately the call girls. Mm-hmm. They would come in and they would set the appointments. So we would fly up on Monday morning, and we'd have 3 appointments, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And we'd make our
obviously you do your marketing in specifically targeted areas
to the farmers
set the appointments
yes.
Okay.
And then we drove everybody drove up there the first week, and we parked our cars then at each airport.
Right.
When we would fly, we'd fly into where our cars were, and then we would just hop around.
What exactly at that time? What did the insurance product do to offset that major tax liability?
We would for $10,000 a year, they could get $1 million worth of coverage.
Got it.
So it would pay when they died. It would pay all the inheritance tax.
So that's not the what you're talking about was not owed was it on an annual basis? It was
no, only when you die.
Okay,
it's
got
only
it.
when you die. It's your inheritance
There.
tax, the estate tax when you die.
Okay.
And so, but get what happens. Ronald Reagan comes in and says, we're going to do away with the estate tax, or we're going to change it a lot. And so
that insurance product
they passed a law that the estate tax didn't kick in until $1.2 million, $600,000 a person. So my business disappeared, literally.
With that one
disappeared
decision.
Overnight. It was gone.
Man.
Because most of these farms were in the $600,000 $1 million range.
Right.
So
it was there was a target market specifically where you could pay less than $1,000 a month, and you're covered whenever you die on any of your people who are going to inherit your property having to pay that 37% estate tax.
And then it just disappeared.
Okay, got it. So then I guess at that time you had so you say let's just say the admins, we won't call them the car girls. Admins. So
intake the phone. It was an outbound mail piece, inbound calls.
Right.
Then from the calls, we'd set the appointments, and I had 4 or 5 agents.
Sure.
And I'd put them in my plane. I'd fly them up every week.
Gotcha. And this is all funded by you, the whole thing?
All funded by me.
Yeah.
Whole thing.
So how did you get even started in that? Did someone tell you about it? Or did someone...
A friend of mine, guy named Warren Cheatham, was my first, I guess, partner. We did that together. It was the 2 of us. He was 65 and I was 25.
Damn.
And but he showed
crazy.
me the kind of ropes, and great guy.
Cool.
Absolutely great guy.
That's great. So that's a what a I feel like it's so interesting. Like that's clearly let me ask you this: at the time, was that kind of a niche spot to be? Was it kind of like not a whole lot of people are selling life insurance in that little
segment?
The money's in the niches, man.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And we'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
We'll talk about that a little bit. So that kind of business went right under your swept you. I mean, that was it.
That was 83, 84, and so then in 85, I had sold insurance, but I got a job selling commercial real estate in Dallas. And in 1987, the real estate market in Dallas crashed.
Yep.
There was a savings and loan crisis. A bunch of guys had, it's sort of like the subprime market.
Sure.
They just raped, pillaged, and plundered everybody. And so in 1987, I put $45 million worth of deals in the title company. Signed contract, willing seller, willing buyer, got none of them financed.
Man.
And so I was just broke, man. I felt like I got married in '87, and so your mama did not marry me for my money. She was hopeful that she believed in me, but she was not. If she was a gold digger, she was the dumbest gold digger ever. I mean, because that was, I had nothing.
Man,
and,
so that probably, I guess that's probably got to go on record of kind of like one of the bigger hits in your career up to that time. I mean, 45 million in contracts. I mean, golly, I'd
have gotten a point and a half, so I'd have had like 700,000 in income in 1984. 84, 85.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I mean, it was bad.
That's substantial. So that's probably
no, it was 87. You're right.
Yeah.
87. Yeah.
So it was probably I mean, easily in current conditions over $1.5 million.
Easy
in commissions going to you that just gone.
Yeah, gone. Disappeared.
Wow.
So now I've had twice.
So we've had two big fails.
And my brother.
Well, I guess let me ask you this before we go any further, okay? So, because our audience and the kind of the big reason as to why I want to do stuff like this and bring, business owners like yourself in the door is, entrepreneurship. And if you look at it the right way, you're either winning or you're learning. You're never losing. So give me like the biggest learning lesson and I know that those particular scenarios were really outside of your control, but you had the different, I guess, bill passed that Ronald Reagan did.
Right.
Then you had the market crash of '87.
Yep.
So outside of that, what I guess, if you could, what were like the biggest takeaways from those losses? Because clearly, like you found a way to strap back up and keep moving.
Yeah.
But what were your biggest takeaways from those times?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say other than people that believe there's security in a job, they think that these big companies are immune. Nobody ever gets fired, or, you're always going to have a position, or you're going to count on someone else to take care of you. The reality is your only security in life ever is in your ability to perform. And if you can't get the job done, it doesn't matter whether you own the company, don't own the company, or if you can't get the job done, you're not going to make it.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time inside of these walls. There is a concept in creating healthy leverage inside of an organization that you work for, and it's just simply providing more value to the company than in which they're paying you right now.
Well, isn't that the Great American Standoff?
It truly
we
is.
Work just so hard. We work just hard enough that they won't fire us, and they pay us just enough so we won't quit.
Exactly. So, but
now that's the cynical view.
Yeah, that's a little bit.
That's a cynical view.
But I think you're right, though.
You're building entrepreneurs, though, with it. You're
entrepreneurs inside of the business, helping people create leverage.
Yeah.
Because like what your statement is absolutely correct, and the fact that capitalism and where we are, it directly rewards you for the performance in which it happen. Like, and although it might be a delayed reaction if you're underperforming, like you might be able to underperform for a little bit, but eventually that underperformance is gonna catch up to you, and you're no longer gonna have that position.
That's exactly
Simple fact of the matter.
Yep.
So
if you don't bring more to the table than you cost, I don't care what you call yourself, 1099, W-2, employee, whatever.
Doesn't matter.
It just doesn't matter. At the end of the day, if you don't bring more to the table than it costs people, then you can't succeed.
Yeah.
And that's entrepreneur or entrepreneur, either one. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes any difference.
That's great. I think that I think a lot of people would benefit from hearing something like that. It doesn't matter if you're an employee at an organization. I was listening to a podcast. Golly, I forgot who he was interviewing, but his name is Jay Shetty. Y'all go listen to Jay Shetty. He has amazing people that go on his podcast. And that's what they were talking about. They were just talking about how important it is to leverage yourself inside of, even if you're an employee somewhere, The best thing that you can do is never be afraid to go to your boss and directly ask your boss or your boss's boss how you make them money. If you ask that question, that is going to be something that you guys can leverage. Okay, if you know the
And
direct
how can I make you more money?
more money,
Yeah.
those are the two main questions. How do I make you money, and how can I make you more money? And if I do make you more money, can we negotiate on the stuff extra that I bring in?
Yeah.
Like, if you approach jobs and you approach anything like that with that type of kind of mentality, there's always going to be ways to grow. And if you don't, then you need to move to a different company, right? There's all kinds of
yeah,
amazing
yeah.
companies out there that absolutely reward direct increases in performance, and if it affects either their top line or their bottom line, they reward that stuff.
Okay, now I want to move forward here because I think
Sure.
we can take this in a great direction here.
I guess who's running this podcast now?
No.
It happened.
But,
Yeah.
okay, all right.
I'm playing.
But here's the thing though. Here's where I landed after that.
Sure.
My brother was in law school.
Yeah.
My cousin Anne Marie was in law school.
Smart.
And
Shout
so
out Anne Marie.
I called I was talking to Rob, my brother, about how poor I was, and he said, "Well, you ought to try to go to law school," and that's how that whole deal got started.
Right.
Okay.
Just like, hey, go
yeah.
to law school.
So
Did you think really quickly before you go forward? Did you think whenever you were saying, okay, I'm going to decide to go to law school, did you know that you were going to apply your entrepreneurship skill set in tandem with the law degree, or were you like, I don't care what I need to do, I just need to get something where I can go provide value in the marketplace?
Yes, because I had.
Well, which one? There's two different ways.
Well, what I had thought was I wanted to become the product.
Sure.
Because I can't go south on me, or if I do go south on me, it's called disability, and you can buy insurance for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because then I became the market because
Correct.
I had legislation ruin my career, and I had just market forces ruin my career. But so talking about becoming an attorney, what I was really doing was developing a skill set that had value in up markets, down markets, any market.
Yep.
You know, what the skill set I brought to the table then would have value.
Sure.
Okay. I believe that is exactly what y'all have done because y'all have learned how to run a business.
Yep. 100%.
And I don't think it matters if they outlawed solar tomorrow. Okay. By Monday, y'all would have a different business that y'all would be off and running because you've learned that skill set.
Sure.
And so I view that as no different than going to law school. If you have to develop a skill set which has value in the marketplace. That's
as simple as it
period.
gets. Yeah.
That is what it boils down to.
So go to law school. You're Baylor undergrad, LSU law school, graduate law school in '93, correct?
93, that's right.
93.
Started on my 30th birthday, August 30th, 1990.
You started
Law school.
Law school. Wow.
August 30th, 1990, first day.
Okay.
My birthday.
So then you graduated, in 93.
Yes.
Yeah. So you graduated May of 93.
May of
correct?
93,
Okay.
that's right.
So walk us through a little bit about, I know you had a little, did you work for somebody for a small
Short
period?
term.
Short term?
I did a federal judicial clerkship for my first year, worked for a federal judge, which kind of, that was a great experience.
Sure.
And then I went with a guy named Associates for a year or so. And let me tell you, I had a percentage deal with that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And, oh boy, we edit out his name because I'm fixing to tell a story.
Yeah, we can edit out his name. Yeah.
All right. So I'd negotiated a percentage deal, not just a salary. I got a percentage. So I took this huge contingency fee case, and you were just not going to believe this story. Anyway, my percentage of that deal at my first
Whatever
year
you
out of
agreed
law
upon,
school was going to be like $300,000 or $400,000. I mean, it was a
Slam
giant.
dunk,
I mean, first or second year out of law school.
Yeah.
So we get the case settled. We put the money in the bank. We get it all out, and I'm waiting for my check. And I say, well, what happened to my check? Well, we're still working on the accounting, blah, 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 blah. And then I said, a week later, well, have we done the accounting yet? Where's my check? I went out and bought your mom a new Mercedes.
No, you didn't.
I did, thinking, here's my check, right? I'm about to get the check. She needed a new car anyway. But anyway, so she's got this Mercedes over there, and I'm waiting for my check, And finally, the guy came clean, and the week that check hit the his law firm account, okay, the IRS garnished. He was behind on his taxes,
No.
and the IRS took every penny of it to pay his taxes.
Oh my!
I got a big old fat goose egg, and
Did he even try to pay you out anything?
I said, well, you do know this means I can't work here anymore. You do realize that, don't you? I mean, we cannot be in business anymore. But he was actually at the end of the day an honorable guy. So here's what he did. He didn't have any money to pay me with.
Sure.
But he gave me cases that when I left and when I went to a different law firm, he gave me cases to sort of take a book of business with me.
Sure.
That I had to work for it.
But
I ultimately made the money that he had not paid me out of those cases. So at the end of the day, he was as honorable as he could be.
Have been on that.
He did a little. I mean, so what do you learn? Don't ever let anybody else control the checkbook.
Yep.
You know, it's got to come to your account, not theirs.
Yeah. So you work for him. That whole debacle happens. You move into, you work for another law firm. That was
94, 95, 96 maybe. And then 96, I went to the other law firm over in Arlington, Ramsey and Dismuke. And then from there, I jumped out. June of 97, I jumped out of my own law firm.
Okay. So let's start there. And I want to talk a little bit about jumping out on your own. You had been practicing at that point now for 4 years.
4 years.
93 to 97, somewhere around in that range. Felt like you had built enough of the skill set, figuring out what you want to do. And tell me about kind of how you met your previous law partner and how long that lasted. And then we're gonna get into a little bit about then after that, we're going to get into like traction and what you're doing now and going a little bit back and saying what kind of things you would have done differently.
Absolutely.
So tell a little bit about what law you were practicing at the time, how you met Lewis, and how long that lasted.
Okay. That was 97. I was doing primarily family law, and I was doing some commercial litigation at the time. When I went on my own, I had 20 clients, and I had $40,000 in my trust account. That's what I got to start my law firm with. So I went out there, I rented a place, and 2 years later, Mike Baldwin introduced me to Lewis Schaff.
You're kidding. I didn't know that.
They went to Chicago, Denver Law School to get their LLM and taxation together. They met each other there.
Got it.
And they're both big golfers.
Sure,
so
that's how they
met.
Yep.
And so you have to be sworn in. Lewis did bankruptcy work, so you had to be sworn into you had to have someone refer you in or sponsor you into the federal bar.
Sure.
And so Judge Fish knew me. So Mike Baldwin wasn't licensed in the Northern District of Texas either. So Mike Baldwin and Lewis went over, and I was going to sponsor them to become part of the North Texas Federal Bar. And since I didn't know Lewis, I told Mike Baldwin, I said, well, I'll sponsor you because I know you, but you're going to have to sponsor the other guy.
I don't know the guy.
I don't know him. Yeah. I don't care what you say about him. I don't know him. So I didn't sponsor him, but we got together, and it's really it's kind of crazy. But bankruptcy and family law, divorces go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You cannot run two houses on what you can't run one on.
For sure.
So if you're already struggling and you break up, it's the disaster.
Whole thing. So you guys kind of ham and egged it for
we did
for
24
how long?
years.
24 years.
24 years.
So we don't have to get all into detail of what happened there. Long story short, just wasn't a value alignment anymore. And you guys split ways.
It just ran its course.
Yeah.
It just ran its course.
Sure.
And we had some success in some other businesses
that
he had actually quit practicing law. So that was really kind of he quit in 2020.
Gotcha. So he quit about 6 years ago.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So
because they were running the investment advisory.
Correct.
We had a different business. And he was running that business.
So let's talk a little bit about where you are now. I want to talk about. I want to start this off with, okay. So for you guys who don't know, right? We run this. I want to tell the story too, which is like
absolutely
vastly changed my life, your life, like the whole thing. So We run our business off of EOS. It's called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. We were extremely diligent about using all the tools, how to run meetings, how to basically take a 10-year vision or a 5 or 7-year vision and break it down to what do I have to do this week to get it done. Obviously at PV National, we run a seasonal business that relies on hailstorms. Basically, Q2, Q3 is really where we make not all of our money, but a vast majority. I would say 80% of our total annual revenue in a calendar year comes from the 6 months from April through September. So,
Right.
um, how and you are the one who introduced us in a very kind of back end way, I guess you could say, to traction. Um, and then we'll talk about that first, and then we'll talk about how you got to where you are now. So tell me just the relationship with Brad Crawford, how that even happened, and
Buddy of
how this
mine,
would
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Tell me a little
buddy
bit
of
about
mine
that.
from Baylor, a guy named super guy, very successful in his own right. And y'all were started your business, and it was seasonal. And I knew that had started a company called over in Fort Worth, and air conditioning, and that's
HVAC.
also seasonal. So what I was trying to do was help you guys. I was just trying to pick his brain
Sure.
about, because what y'all were struggling with at the time was keeping people year round in a seasonal business.
Yep.
How do you do that?
That was a challenge.
Yeah, it was a challenge,
Yeah.
huge challenge.
Yep.
And so I called old fraternity brother and said, "Hey, let's go to dinner." So we go to dinner. I get around to asking him at the end of the night about how he did that. And he said, "Well, interesting you should say that. I just sold it." On information and belief, as they say in lawyer land, he had just sold his company for what I think was at least 80 to $100 million. I mean, significant,
Yeah,
serious,
big time
big time money.
payout. Yeah.
75 trucks, 200 employees, big time company. And so after that meeting, I said, "Well, man, the boys, could they pick your brain or whatever?" And so he sends me a text, says, "Well, I'll talk to them, but they got to read this book, Traction. It's what we built our company on. We've used it for
There's
8
two
years.
books, Traction,
Traction.
and then the 4 Disciplines of Execution.
That's right. Those 2 books.
Yep.
I'll meet with them if they'll do that." And so
That's when that started.
I got through all those 2 books.
So
And
here's what happened. So he tells me about this, and he tells me and my brother Preston about traction just in general. And by that time, this was 2023, and we had started the business in May of 2020. So we're 3 years in at this point. We're growing year over year at a pretty significant rate. We 3x from 2020 to 21. We 2.5x again to 2022, and then we like 1.8x to 2023. So it was nice, good, consistent growth, but we still had the issue of the seasonality. We had turnover rate with our employees, a little bit of lack of data systems, process, all the stuff that Traction talks about. And I brought it to, we had another business partner at the time. So at PV National, it was me, Nick, my brother Preston, who's currently with us now. And then we had another business partner that unfortunately didn't work out. But I brought the book to all of us. And I can't remember, it was either me or Preston brought the book to everybody. And within I think we all just said, "Hey, we're going to commit to reading this," and no one could put it down. We finished the book in like a week.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just all the light bulbs started happening about data, systems, process, people, how to delegate, how to run meetings, how to create a vision, how to create a marketing strategy. We ran this business kind of just off of like hard work and just knowing that one day we'd figure it out. We really didn't do a whole lot of business planning, like some of the things that you hear now, but like, golly, we learned so much in those first 3 years to where when we did get our hands on something like this, we were ready for it. We knew the market, we knew how detach and resets worked. We had a great reputation, and we were making money, but it wasn't a ton of money, but we were making money. And it's like, okay, how do we take this thing from, 800,000 to 50 million, right? Like that big of a jump, and Traction has just completely opened the doors for us. We've we grew over 320% from 24 to 25. So now we're going to segue into how, just to give you guys a little bit of backstory about this book and this system, that Traction is not a It's not a self-help personal.
It's not a rah-rah book.
No, it's not a
rah-rah.
self-help.
It's a how-to.
It's a how-to is
Yeah.
what it is, and
And
all
amazingly, it fits across any
business.
industry, any business.
Doesn't matter what kind of business. I do think that these type of systems implemented in unsophisticated industries like solar and roofing and landscaping, things of that nature, I think they probably see the most rate of return from like where they were at to where they could be if you have good, smart leaders. But so we, over the last, from 2023 to about, what's a year and a half ago? 24 and a half, right? Yeah, 2024 around like June. So we have been doing, we obviously at PV National have been doing detach and resets for 6 years. And over the time, some of the stuff that you've heard in my past podcast episodes and stuff like that, the amount of people in the solar industry that sold this thing the wrong way, that took advantage of elderly people, that took advantage of English second language people, that just, I've heard stories so much as a salesman at someone's door. They're not qualified for the loan product, so they'd call their buddy and say, "Oh, hey, I'll give you $5,000 if you co-sign on this loan. It's a shoe in. Like, I'll pay you $5,000 if you just co-sign this loan, so they can get a deal done." We're talking that level of shady inside of this business. And I know you've seen and we could talk about that for hours, but you've seen a ton of it given what you've been doing the last 18 months. So there was one, this is about a year and a half ago, and obviously throughout the years we've heard, and there's about a 70% attrition rate on solar companies, sales organizations, and actual solar construction companies alike. So for every 100, solar companies, 70 of them in the last 2.5 to 3 years have either filed Chapter 11, Chapter 7, or they just have shut their doors. So, we would hear those stories all the time of, oh, well, my company's out of business, or I don't have anyone to service it, or my system's not working properly, I don't know who to call, all those stories, which are like bad stories, and we do everything that we can on a job in and job out to help these consumers. But we had just been hearing it a lot more after 2022. 2022 was when every roofer became a solar company. Every pest control sales organizations were peddling solar product. I mean, anyone that solar construction companies can find just to sell and get a deal signed, they were doing it. And that was in 2022 was the biggest boom in solar as far as the loan products go in solar. And, there was one lady who we did a detach and reset for. She was 75 years old, English second language, $100,000 loan, and system never got turned on. And she was afraid to not pay the loan bill because she didn't want to affect her credit.
Well, hey, I've had them think they were going to jail.
Yeah, some of
the
them.
ESL people.
Yeah,
they come from different places where you go to jail if you don't pay your bills, and they're fearful that literally somebody's going to come lock them up if they don't pay the bill.
So there was a particular instance that I'm not going to obviously go into details about names or anything like that, but basically something at that point, that was the straw for us, that for me and some of my business partners, it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. I was so tired of hearing these stories about how many sales organizations and EPCs and construction companies were absolutely just screwing over these homeowners. And finally, I just volunteered as time to talk to this lady. I just said, "Hey, man, I'm sorry, but and you at that point, you were kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out of retirement. Right. You were just kind of, that was, whatever. I was
taking it easy.
You were taking it easy.
I wasn't
right?
doing too much.
No. And so finally, I just had Dad go talk, just go talk to this lady. Right. Is there anything that we can do? And then 18 months later, over 4,000 clients later, over $16 million in revenue later in 18 months, here we are.
Yeah.
So tell everybody a little bit about kind of what you're doing now. And I also want to highlight something really quickly. While you were 25 years practicing bankruptcies and divorces, we've talked about this before. It was get the work, do the work.
Yes.
Get the work, do the work.
I practiced law the wrong way for 24 years.
Right.
Obviously, I read Traction too. Once we found out the book, I said, "Oh, well, I want to know what they know." So I read the book.
Right. And so I want to talk a little bit about kind of some of the things. It was get to work, do the work, get to work, do the work. You made payroll
Oh,
every single
absolutely.
2 weeks for 25 years,
Yep.
and not that you didn't have a great career, but you did. But you guys never really got ahead.
No.
It was okay. We make enough money to support our families. Me and my law partner do. We have enough to pay our you had a couple staff that worked for you, but it was never like, hey, we're gonna grow this law firm to 30 locations, or we're gonna grow this law firm to Dallas, Fort Worth, Abilene, Houston, Austin, San Antonio. Those kinds of things were never in the conversation.
No.
And I guess knowing what you know now about traction, I guess tell me a little bit about what you would have done a little bit differently, and then how inside of Prevo Law Firm, what it is now, how you've
Oh my
how
gosh.
you've done things differently to where
Yes.
you're able to grow. And not to mention, just really quickly, you have over 80 employees that work for you now. And
83.
83. What was the
83.
maximum amount of employees that you had at Prevo Law Firm,
10,
excluding you and Lewis?
8, 9 at
Right.
the most.
So you've 10x what you did in
Yep.
20 years within an 18-month time
Yep.
frame. And so
Yep.
I think that's something that I want to paint the picture for everybody here, is that systems, processes, having the right people in the right seats, it matters. It's the only way you're going to grow your business. So,
Only way.
so tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, I read Traction, and to your point, we had been successful in this regard. We did good work.
Sure.
We got
Serve
a lot
your
of
clients.
referrals.
Yeah.
We served good clients. We did a good job for our clients, and we were always busy.
Right.
But honestly, if you're lawyering by the hour is no different than plumbing by the hour. If you're tied to the desk or tied to the truck or whatever it is you're tied to do
Yep.
your hourly work, it was a higher hourly rate, but I was still just an hourly guy.
Yep.
I wasn't really building a business, and I had in my mind thought, well, you can't really sell a law firm, which you really kind of can't for lots of reasons, but I hadn't really ever thought about really scaling it and all that. So I read Traction, and I realized that what I should have done was, because my forte was sitting in the conference room selling the client
On your services.
and so on our services, what we could do for them. I should have never have done the work. What I should have done was to have hired 4 or 5 really good process-minded introverts.
Yeah.
I don't want them stealing my business, right? So you get the introverts, and all I should have done all day every day was sit in that office and sell the business.
Yep.
And I could have leveraged myself at least 3 or 4 times
Yep.
on what we were doing. And so I read Traction. Y'all brought me the solar panel cases. We just pretended we did a little bit of advertising. We got 2 clients in like May, 2 clients
This
in
is
June,
2024, correct?
2024. And then it went 14, 41, 61, 181, and it just off from there. But we did what Traction said, and we got a visionary, sort of the overall big picture, big relationships, sales, all that, and combine that with a really good operator. Find an operator, somebody who knows how to run things. And I read something in Traction, or it may have been in Rocket Fuel, but it basically said that if you're a visionary, if you don't find your integrator, they all just die with unfulfilled potential.
Yep.
And so that's when I committed.
Explain that a little bit more, because people don't understand the context of visionary and integrator,
And-
and why that's so important for people that have the dreamer mindset, the big mindset, or the big picture ideas, and we could go conquer the world. Why it's so important that you're not the only person in your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, if you just look at businesses that have made it, and you look at Apple, Jobs was the visionary who could
Wozniak.
see the big picture, but he'd have never made it without Wozniak,
Yep.
right? I don't know. You're too young to know this, but Walt Disney, he was totally a visionary. He created Mickey Mouse, and he created Mickey Mouse and all the other things that made Disney great. But his brother Roy was the operator. Roy was always in the background, but he's the guy that made things run.
Happen. Yeah.
And it's just rare that you have all of those personality traits in one human.
Yep.
So if you're the visionary, which I took the test, and I'm totally the visionary, you got to find that integrator or that operations guy to team up with
Yep.
to make it all happen.
Yeah.
And so in my law firm, we started out in 2024 just trying to see if it would work. And y'all had come to me, and I had taken some of these solar panel cases to see how I could maybe work them out. And then come to find out, nobody in America had ever run an ad for a solar
on
panel
Facebook or
case or
Instagram or anything
anywhere.
like that.
Zero. The pay-per-click was 2 cents
Oh my
at
God.
the time. So we said, let's put all the chips in the middle.
Yep.
And I jokingly say I feel like Forrest Gump, who wound up at the White House by accident.
Yeah.
I have wound up now with 83 employees, over 5,000 clients. We're the largest solar panel law firm in the nation. And it happened because we implemented those uh, policies, procedures, processes. We did it in a disciplined way that made it happen.
Yeah.
And I don't think we run ours as strictly on EOS as you do.
No, you
but
don't.
it's fundamentally
The same.
the same
Yeah.
in terms, especially in terms of organizational chart, right people, right seat,
Yep.
and all that. We probably don't do as good a job with scorecards.
Yeah. Like just tracking your weekly metrics. on things.
Tracking. I mean, so we can do better, but it's kind of been it's grown so fast.
Well, it's hard to do that in like 18 months. Like we didn't
Right.
really have it nailed down really for 18 months. And I don't know if it would have been like it's been like draining water through a fire hose for you guys.
Absolutely.
But you guys have done it in a way to where everyone has their roles, responsibilities, and everyone's putting in work
clear.
and everyone's going, and the mission is clear, right?
Yeah,
for you guys.
absolutely.
And, I just think it's an incredible story about how we got started in this business. You were 1 foot out the door. We told you about this stuff, and now you're in the midst and you're in trenches deep trying to get, thousands and thousands and thousands of people, guys, because the extensive nature in which solar sales is it's grotesque is like a light way to explain it.
Well, I mean, just here's the standard deal. You're never going to pay another electricity bill again. You're going to get 30% back in a tax rebate, which
Yep.
is not true because it's a tax credit, not a rebate. So people making $1,700 a month don't pay taxes.
Yep.
And so they're never getting the check. Then it doesn't produce what it's supposed to. They got shade all over the roof, and there's just and you put the 75-year-old person into a 25-year contract.
Yeah.
So they might pay it off when they're 100.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
If they make it to 100.
So explain that really quickly on why it is so important that, maybe not so important, why you guys have been so successful. What is like the main, and I think I want to touch on this too. I want to talk about a little bit of the culture inside of your company. Everyone it's like, if you guys don't know, go watch the movie Aaron Brockovich. It's predicated, I believe, on a true story.
It's true
correct? It's a
story,
true
yeah.
story about how in Hinckley, I don't know exactly what state it was, but there's a city or a town called Hinckley. Basically, there's a big corporation that basically in the public water had all kinds of chemicals and different things in there that would give people, spina bifida and all these different medical
Dying of
cancers and all that different kind of stuff. And obviously it's not quite on that level, but everyone in that office in that movie, it's, she's working, 22-hour days, getting no sleep, learning everything she can about her clients and people that they're bringing on. And, just being around your team the last 18 months, I think, the nature of just what's happening, I think attributes to a lot to the culture. But I guess, what are some things that you guys have put in place that you think facilitate that culture? And where do you think that begins?
Well, I think it always begins with your leadership.
Yep.
And if your leaders are fake, it's just not going to work.
Yep.
And so you have to find something you have real passion for, you have a real belief in. And in our particular circumstance, it's not hard to be passionate about helping the people if you could just hear their stories.
Yeah.
So we're very mission focused, and I think the culture is that we're literally there to help people out of a horrible spot. And honestly, it's David versus Goliath. It's all the stuff that you hear about a story like this. But we do have a great culture. Everybody believes in the mission, and if they don't, then they don't stay.
It does, yeah.
It's just too hard. We work too hard.
Yeah,
if you don't believe in the mission, they just don't stay.
Nick Saban says, there's a quote by Nick Saban that says, high performers can't stand underachievers, and underachievers can't stand high performers.
Yeah, that's
So I
exactly
feel like
right.
inside of your business, you just got a bunch of high performers who are on fire for the mission. And if you're just lackadaisical about it, that shit gets sniffed out, and you're
And
done pretty quick.
and I'll tell you what's really interesting. My operations
Your business
manager,
partner.
John Smith. John has a real knack for finding talent that has not been given opportunity before. He finds people that are not from privileged backgrounds, that are not from, what you would normally say, oh yeah, they're going to be a
Rock star,
superstar or
yeah.
whatever, but they're smart and they work hard and they have big hearts. And man, I'm just telling you, I would put my crew up against any Harvard educated group out there. My crew will work them, they will work them into the ground.
Yeah.
And we did that. Gibson, Dunn and Crutcher, um, seventh largest law firm in the world,
To fight Neil P.
to fight me, put 16 lawyers on every case, and one of their paralegals is sending my paralegal email saying, we're all about to crater over here working 18-hour days for what y'all are doing to us.
Let's go.
And so I am telling you, it's just right people. And John has a
unique
a
ability.
unique skill to find that talent,
Yeah.
and to feed that talent, and to help them. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll wind up getting what you want.
That's Zig Ziglar.
And that's
right?
Zig Ziglar. That's a long time, but it's true.
It's true. No,
they,
yeah,
they
100%.
They become famous statements because there's a lot
truth
of
to
truth
them,
in it,
yeah,
right? So,
yeah.
so I think that's been it, and commitment to the core, to the mission, and it's a cause.
Sure.
It's not just a job. It's
Yeah.
a cause.
Yep.
And so anyway, yeah.
And I think
it's been great.
that's something that we definitely try to emulate here.
Absolutely.
Like, protect as many homeowners as have invested in solar as we possibly can. One homeowner, one roof, one system at a time. And so, whenever these guys are out doing detach and resets, and they're we had a homeowner the other day, or I think it was yesterday, we did a reinstall, and one of our guys, Mike, shout out to Mike, man, you've just stepped up in a big way. He's one of our crew chiefs, who basically when an install crew goes out, he's the lead guy
Right.
on that crew. And a homeowner, they fixed their system without, we didn't charge him anything, but Mike was the one who caught the issue, figured out what was going on, fixed the system, and now we're going to be able to warrant that homeowner's system. And
Wow.
there's this particular homeowner, their company was out of business, and they had a faulty, non-working system before they got their roof replaced. So after they get
It had never worked.
well, it worked, but it was faulty. So like
Okay,
there are parts of it that didn't work, so she
Right.
wasn't getting all of her money, right?
Yeah.
So that's what we're focused on right now, is trying to get everyone that is inside these walls to resonate with this and setting the standard inside of our industry, right? Like,
Right.
you guys have been in your space, you guys are trailblazers. It's hilarious. Like, I see like solar panel cancellation,
all over.
but now they're just marketing firms
Right.
that are not actual attorneys. They're not actually a law firm.
Right.
And so it's funny, like, you guys are the first one to run them, and now now they're everywhere.
Oh, they're everywhere.
But yeah, no, I really just wanted we can kind of, I don't really, unless you have anything in particular you'd like to bring up, I think that really I just wanted to come in and have you come in and just paint the picture of, and honestly, what I really gain from that story is, just your story, just in general, is just a never give up mentality. Like, seriously, like, there's never been a situation where I've seen you where, you don't believe that you can, in some form or fashion, control the outcome of your scenario.
Right.
And I think that's been something that I think everyone can take out from this, whether you've had failed businesses, failed opportunities, or careers that might, even that were great, but maybe you didn't realize all of your potential. It is never too late. It is never too late to start the business. It is never too late to learn. It is never too late to make a difference or make an impact in someone's life. And like, not only are you impacting your clients' lives by this major burden being possibly being lifted, we got 5,000 of these things, you got to get through them, but you're changing the lives of 83 people who are
All of our employees.
all of your employees who love to be here and do what you do. So what would you, I guess, like, what would you say to that? Like, it's never too late.
Here's what I would say. be patient. God isn't finished with you yet.
Yep.
Doesn't matter where you are until your
Yep.
last breath. God's not finished with you yet. And I do believe that God gives you what you need when you need it.
Yep.
I mean, the reality is, we've talked about it extensively.
Yep.
John didn't have the skill set that he needed to do this,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have the skill set I needed to do this 10 years ago, even.
Yep.
You know, so we, when the time was right, it happened. So
Yep.
never ever give up. One thing, trust that God will give you what you need when you need it. But I think there's also, it's really important to think out of the box and be open to the opportunity when it
Yep.
presents
You
itself.
have to recognize
You
it.
have to
And
recognize the
that's one thing I
opportunity.
will 1,000% like. I commend and respect you so much for is that you, when this opportunity came, you had retirement, like you did not have to jump in
No,
and start working
didn't have to
60-hour
do
weeks
this.
again. You didn't
Yeah,
have to do it.
right.
And what I love about it is that you the opportunity was there and you just seized it. It was all action and figuring it out
Yeah.
as we go. And like I just want everyone to kind of take something from that. Like, don't wait to start the business. Don't wait to start the weight loss journey. Um, don't wait to pour more into your relationship.
Yeah.
Don't wait to go back to church. Don't wait for any of that stuff. Take action, do it quickly, and get yourself around people who care about your success, that care about you. And I think that's just such a big part of what you've been able to do. And I love your story because,
Well,
all these people around you, man, they would take a bullet for you.
yeah, they would. I'm really lucky that way. I've got great staff, great people. But I would say that just understand that you do need to work smarter, not harder,
Yep.
and that if you do it right, just to give people some idea, we're doing as much now in a month in business as I ever did in a year
At your,
at when I was doing it the old way.
yep.
But there's a spot, and even if you're not the entrepreneur, but you can play a role within an organization. Find the right people, get around the right people,
Yep.
and I truly believe if you're around the right people, a lot of the other stuff takes care of itself.
Yeah. If you're around the right people, hard worker, a lot
Yeah.
of stuff will take care of
Harder
itself.
you work, the luckier you get
Yeah,
too. That's
exactly,
true.
exactly. Well, guys, I think that about wraps it up, man. Super stuff. I think
What a
that was
great afternoon. I
that was
love it.
that was awesome, man. I'm so excited because I think there's so many little golden nuggets in there for everybody. Like I said, guys, this is Neil Prevost with Prevost Law Firm. I'm Austin Prevost with PV National, and we're gonna have 7 more episodes come out before the end of March, and we're gonna keep them rolling through the rest of this year. So super excited, and let's go, man. Come on. We'll see y'all next time.
Thank y'all.